So I was sitting here wondering if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would do what is right and induct Pat Benatar. And I look up at the news feeds, and I see Dolly Parton has been nominated. I don't know how you felt, but my jaw dropped, and I thought, this place and the people who run it are losing their minds. First, let me say, I think Dolly Parton is a great singer and entertainer. I spent some money to see her shows. In my opinion, they were well worth it, as I do like and enjoy some styles of country music. She has recorded some great songs, and even crossed over a bit to the pop side. That was good for country music, and it brought some new fans to the genre, but not rock and roll. How can they even comprehend nominating Dolly? Dolly doesn't have a rock and roll bone in her body. But guess what? They had an answer, and we'll get to it here in just a few minutes. But let me add here my respect for her. She graciously bowed out, saying that someday, if she ever records a rock and roll album, she would then accept a nomination. It was such a sweet way to put this farce called Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in their place. Maybe Dolly's slap in the face will finally cause them to pull their heads out of their collective asses and see what they are doing. Or will it? I don't see that happening. You have Pat Benatar sitting on the outside. I was hoping this year they would do what is right for rock fans and let her in. I have a video about Pat on my channel. Check it out and see if you can find a reason why she still waits. I'll put a link up right here to make it easy to find, and again in the description below. I mean, if I feel like rocking out, and again, no disrespect to Dolly Mint, but I'm going to listen to Hit Me With Your Best Shot or Heartbreaker, not 9 to 5 or Jolene. It is like the Hall of Fame thinks we got musically stupid plastered on our foreheads. I'm just trying to look at this using some common sense here, which most of us have. I do understand that there is a big spectrum of musical styles when you look at rock and roll over the years. There was a time Johnny Cash was rock and roll back in the day, and I'm okay with him being there. But them days are gone now. The pioneers are all in there. It just seems to me the Hall of Fame can't get a grasp on this. I'm not a big fan of heavy metal rock, although I do enjoy some of it. It took the Hall forever to finally induct Kiss, and Iron Maiden still sits and waiting. Maybe the Hall don't dig that style, but that shouldn't make a difference. Like Paul Stanley said, the only reason he went was because of the fans. And that is what the Rock Hall of Fame should be about, the fans, all fans of rock and roll. I've seen some great discussions here on my channel under some of the Grand Funk videos I've posted about why they aren't in the Hall of Fame. Anyhow, so I read this the other day on some forum. Didn't really have a name, just some handle called BR52. But it kind of makes sense as to what's happening. See what you think. Back in the mid-2000s, the people who run the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame decided they wanted to broaden their brand. They wanted to expand the definition of what rock and roll means. Kids these days are into hip-hop, so they decided they needed to start inducting hip-hop acts from time to time in order to stay relevant with the modern generation. Okay, I get that. But here's what I don't get. In 2007, the Dave Clark Five were elected to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. However, the people who run the Hall of Fame were desperate to get the first hip-hop act in. So they bumped the Dave Clark Five and instead inducted Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. The Dave Clark Five had more votes, but Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five were the ones that were inducted. So I guess it doesn't matter who got the most votes or what fans of rock and roll really want. Has it ever been? The process of deciding who gets into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is controlled by a few individuals who are not themselves musicians, such as founders Jan Winter, Susan Evans, and writer Dave Marsh. Who gets in is based on their personal tastes and politics rather than the views of the rock and roll world as a whole. And that was it. So whoever wrote this seems like they had some insight or maybe just basically speculating. Either way, it does seem to make a lot of sense. If this is what's going on, and it sure seems to be, I can see why the fans are upset, and a lot of the musicians who are inducted are not. Don't really seem to care much anymore one way or the other. Maybe I'm wrong in the way I'm thinking and feel, but I sure was glad to see little Dolly Parton put them in their place so sweetly. I do believe there is room for a wider spectrum of rock and roll styles of music in the Hall of Fame, even if I don't care for some of the varieties of rock myself. But these people who are yanking the puppet strings from behind the curtain need to step back and take a look at what is happening and realize that people are starting to get wise to how they are operating. They need to be a little more fair in who goes and who doesn't. Okay, so what did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have to say about Dolly refusing her nomination? Here is their response, and I quote, "All of us in the music community have seen Dolly Parton's thoughtful note expressing her feelings that she has not earned the right to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In addition to her incredible talent as an artist, her humility is another reason Dolly is a beloved icon by millions of fans around the world. From its inception, rock and roll has had deep roots in rhythm and blues and country music. It is not defined by any one genre, rather a sound that moves youth culture. Dolly Parton's music impacted a generation of young fans and influenced countless artists that followed. Her nomination to be considered for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame followed the same process of all other artists who have been considered. Dolly's nomination, along with the other 16 for the class of 2022, was sent out earlier this month to our 1,200 general ballot voters, the majority of whom are artists themselves, for consideration for induction at our ceremony. We are in awe of Dolly's brilliant talent and pioneering spirit and are proud to have nominated her for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Signed, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Foundation." Okay, I get what they are saying, but they still don't sound like they are taking back her nomination, do they? What do you think? Please feel free to drop your 2 coppers in the comments. For now, I'm just going to hope that they right a few wrongs, and a good start would be to give Pat Benatar her day in the sun. As always, I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. If you do, make sure you ring that bell to get your notifications. Have a good one, and let's keep rocking.